I'm going to use a barrel I previously modeled in Blender version 2.9 and textured with PBR Painter version 2.4 to show the workflow for multi-channel painting with PBR Painter 3. The barrel has three meshes: the metal bands, the wooden planks, and the plank ends. I'm going to use AmbientCG.com's Metal 024 2K PNG to texture the bands, Ambient.com's Plank 030A 2K PNG to texture the planks, and AmbientCG.com's Tree End 002 2K PNG to texture the plank ends. For the planks and the plank ends, I'm going to multi-channel paint. And for the bands, I'm going to multi-channel texture using PBR Painter 3. I'll open Blender and the Blender file barrel06.blend, which can be found here. I'll switch to the PBR Painter 3 workspace, and in the outliner window in the upper left corner, make sure the barrel mesh is selected. In the Properties window on the right, I'll select New to create a new material and name it Barrel. With layers selected, I'll add a layer by selecting the layer icon. I'll call the layer Planks. With multi-channel painting, we need to select Multi-Paint as the layer type. I'll select OK to close the window. I like to switch to Auto so that the workspace will automatically be updated as I work. I'll also switch from solid mode to viewport shading mode. Next, I'll select the multi-import icon to import the textures downloaded from AmbientCG.com. With the multi-paint layer, you get to choose the resolution you want to use to paint your mesh. I am going to choose 2K. 2048 by 2048 pixels. I'll select OK and import the textures. Again, I'm going to use the color, roughness, and normal. We are now by default in paint mode. When you hover the mouse cursor over the 3D viewport window, you will see a stencil of your texture in the bottom left-hand corner. To move the stencil over your mesh, you drag it with the right mouse button. To rotate the stencil, you hold down the Command key and drag with the right mouse button. To scale the stencil, you hold down the Shift key and drag with the right mouse button. I'm going to multi-channel paint the individual planks that make up the barrel. I'll first hide the bands and ends meshes. Then I'll switch to Edit mode. And in Face Selection mode, select one of the planks using the Shift key plus the Option key and left mouse button drag. I'll hide the remainder of the planks using the Shift key plus the H key. Then I'll switch back to Texture Paint mode. Line up one of the planks with a board of the stencil and paint using the Shift key plus the Control key and the left mouse button. Holding down the Shift key and the Control key while dragging with the left mouse button initially paints on the color texture. Then when I release the keys, in this case the normal and the roughness textures are added. In this way I can add all of the textures, color, normal, roughness, etc., simultaneously. Notice the difference between the multi-channel texturing workflow we used in the previous video and the multi-channel painting workflow. With the multi-channel texturing, the texture is stationary, and one positions the faces of the model. With multi-channel painting, the faces of the model are stationary, and one moves the texture. This adds a great deal of flexibility to texturing, because you can move, scale, and rotate as you work. I'm going to continue to select planks and add a different board texture to each plank. Remember to save your painting by selecting Save Images before closing your Blender file, or you will lose your painting. I'll texture the individual top planks and the insides of the side planks. Next, I'll select the ends mesh, create a new material and multi-paint layer, import the tree ends textures, color, normal, and roughness, and individually texture the ends of the planks. Note the difference between the multi-channel texturing workflow we used in the previous video and the multi-channel painting workflow. With multi-channel texturing, the texture is stationary, and one positions the faces of the model. With multi-channel painting, one can move either the faces of the model or the texture, or both. This adds a great deal of flexibility to texturing because you can move, scale, and rotate as you work. Now I'll texture the band's mesh. One can use multi-channel texturing and multi-channel painting on the same model. I'm going to texture the band's mesh with multi-channel texturing. That is, applying the PBR material texture set downloaded from ambientcg.com in the usual way. I'll select the bands and then add the new material. This time I'll select a standard layer type. I'll load the textures: color, normal, roughness, and metallic. The scale looks a bit large, so I'll open the mapping chevron and reduce the scale. And that's it. The barrel has been textured using both multi-channel texturing and multi-channel painting.